The Dice Tower, episode 522, Omens, Aliens, and Sake?
Welcome to The Dice Tower, a podcast about board games, card games, and most of all, the people who play games. And now, here are Suzanne and Mandi.
Welcome to The Dice Tower, a podcast about board games and card games, and especially the people who play them. In today's episode, we try to prevent the modern apocalypse while going on a blossom viewing journey, and Mandi and I answer some of your questions. I'm Suzanne.
And I'm Mandi.
Hi, Mandi.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
So, last episode, as you know, we always end with two truths and a lie. So, let's start with that. So, I know, I'm so excited. So, I'm really curious to see how people, thought on this one. So, for me, my truths and lies, so we'll start with one. I own two cats. I played competitive football. And I auditioned for a prestigious ballet school. So if you guessed that I own two cats as the lie, you would be correct. So I actually played competitive football until I had a very bad injury. I couldn't walk, actually. It was pretty horrible. Thanks. So there's no more of that. And I did actually audition for prestigious ballet school, the National Ballet School in Toronto. And unfortunately, I was told I was a wonderful dancer, but I was too tall.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'8.5", so I'm probably taller than the guys who would have to lift me.
They missed out. Next time we hang out, I gotta see you pull some pirouettes or something.
Some dance moves. All right, Suze, what about you?
All right, my two truths and a lie was I am missing an organ. I got mistaken for Margaret Cho at a show and got a VIP pass. And I own over 100 craft paper punches. And the lie was that I got mistaken for Margaret Cho and got a free VIP pass. And the reason why I thought this one kind of worked is, to be honest, I have been mistaken for Margaret Cho multiple times in my life. I just never really got anything out of it other than like an awkward conversation. And as far as I saw somebody was like, oh my gosh, are you missing an organ? I'm like, yeah, I had really bad gallstones and they had to take my gallbladder out. So it's one of those organs. It doesn't really count.
I heard they're really painful gallstones, though.
Oh, I could barely walk. They were so incredibly painful. So,
ouchie. Okay.
Yeah, I don't recommend it. Although I did get to eat a lot of Jell-O afterwards. So if you like Jell-O, that's one way to go about it.
Bonus.
Before we start talking about all the awesome games we've been playing lately, a little bit of show business. Mandi, I know that you have a couple of shows that you wanted to bring up. What you got going?
Yeah, so lots happening up in, the great north up here. So HalCon is coming up, and, well, as you know, Ron Smith will be there, and Tom will also be there. So, and, of course, yours truly will be there.
Of course.
And that's coming up on the 22nd to the 24th of September, and that's in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So, really looking forward to it, because it's my first time going. I know there's going to be a lot of cosplay, so I'm very curious to see how board gaming has imprinted in this con. It's huge here.
Sure.
So, I'm very, very excited to see how that goes, and hopefully doing a little catching up with the guys while I'm there.
Oh, I'm jealous. That'll be so fun.
Yay. And finally, Proto-TO. So it's a show where basically designers can show off their prototype games. And this is happening in Toronto, Ontario. And that's actually coming up, what's coming up the weekend of the... Oh my goodness, I have to think about it here. This is when we record the shows. I'm like, I should know the dates. So that's coming up the second last weekend of September.
Okay.
No. The last weekend, sorry. Oh my gosh, I'm so confused. HalCon is the 22nd to the 24th September. Mandi, get it together. And Proto-TO is the 30th that weekend of September. To October the 1st, I believe it is. So,
yikes, you're busy.
I'm traveling a lot. And see, that's why I'm so confused.
Yeah, and then in October, the whole Dice Tower crew is headed to Germany for the Spiel at Essen. So you and I will be there, and Tom and Sam and Z and Eric will all be there as well, looking at all the new great stuff coming out of Essen and hopefully meeting some of the listeners who live over in Europe. And I'm really looking forward to it. That's like October 25th through the 28th or something like that, I think.
Oh, so excited.
Yeah,
I
it'll be
literally
awesome.
have that list that you gave me on my screen. That maybe we might have to save that for another episode.
The Essen preview. Yeah. And for anybody who is a fan of the podcast and doesn't know it, Eric has his top 100 games video series that has been up on YouTube. He's, different episodes have been releasing, but I think they're all up there now. So if you want to get to know Eric a little better and see his gaming taste, don't forget to check out his top 100 on YouTube.
Yeah, I've been watching it. Looks great.
Yeah, he's so great. So let's talk about some games, because that's what we're all about. Games, right?
Woohoo!
Woohoo! So what? Come on, I'm excited to hear about this first game you wrote down, because I have a copy, but I haven't got to play it yet. So I want to hear all about it.
Oh boy. Okay, I feel like I need to take a deep breath in here because, I chose Lisboa as my first game that I want to talk about. So if you are not familiar with this game, it is quite lengthy, so I won't go into an extremely detailed summary of it, but just enough for you to understand the game. So before I start, I might need to give you a little premise here. I actually played this game before it was released, and I was extremely confused playing this game, but I was still interested because I love Vital's games. So let me jump right in, give you a little background. So the game I chose, or started with, is Lisboa. The designer is Vital Lacerda. Illustrations are by Ian O'Toole, and the publisher is Eagle Gryphon Games. So it's a city building game, economic, a bit of hand management type game. And if you know anything about the history, I'll just do a little touch on this. So Vital, if you're listening, I am talking with the history a smidge. Basically, the game of Lisboa, it's set over a span of like 22 years in the history. So you play the roles of influential nobles who survive some major natural disasters, and it will help in the reconstruction and economic development of the new city to receive graces from the king and the marquis. So you're basically working with architects to build Lisboa, to gain influence, and the most important thing of all is to acquire wigs. I know. But that is how it is. So Lisboa is divided into 2 time periods, and generally on a turn, you'll want to play one of the 5 political cards that you'll have in your hand to perform one of the 4 available actions. Basically, to get gold, and then you will take a new card from your hand from the political card display, which is kind of at the top side of the board. When a player manages to complete 2 sets of rubble, so there's another part of the board where you're basically you're removing cubes, and these are kind of determining how much you're going to pay in order to place in the market and so forth. Whoever does that first, the time period ends, and that'll also end that player's turn. So after the change of period is resolved, the game continues until the end of the game is triggered by a player having 4 complete sets of rubble. So these are cubes that are brown, red, and blue, and you'll see them that get placed on your board. After the change of period is resolved, the game continues until the end of the game is triggered by a player having 4 complete sets of rubble. So those are the cubes, the blue, red, and brown cubes. Or by 3 decks of the political cards being exhausted. So at the end of the round that happens, players will take 1 more turn, and the final scoring happens. And the player with the most wigs wins the game. So some actions that you can take into the game, you can play into your portfolio, and any card to sell goods, any card to trade with the nobles, and you will play these cards into the royal court. There are some actions, which are 6 state actions. You can recruit state officials, and those are really important when you're deciding to do some building, acquire a plan, building a ship, producing goods, meeting the cardinal, and gaining royal favor. So you can also use a noble card to visit the noble's office. And by doing that, a player can also follow a visit. So they can also take that action if they have the correct tile to do so. You'll also have to spend influence to visit a noble. Some actions you can do here are building a store, choosing a wooden house, earning wigs for your new store, taking a decree, and open a public building. There are also treasury cards that you can play. So instead of taking these actions, it allows you to take this, the good or whatever's available on the bottom of that card. And depending on where you play it on your little player board, on the top or on the bottom, will depend on what you gain from that card. So you're probably going, oh my goodness, that's a lot. I gave you a very brief summary of the game, like extremely brief. But
Sure.
It gives you an idea that there are a lot of actions and a lot of things going on.
Yeah, I mean, Vital is known for, these heavier, complex games.
And I'll be honest with you, I didn't find this game as intuitive as The Gallerist. I've had people tell me they found this game easier. I did not find this game easier. I found it took me, I played it once, and then I had to play it again, and then halfway through that game is when it kind of started to click for me.
Do you think that that's because of the mechanisms, or do you think that's because you connected with a theme differently, a combination? What do you kind of think there?
I just found with the Galers, it was intuitive. Like, it's like, okay, this makes sense to me. This makes sense to me. Not that Lisboa doesn't. It's just the way that the actions are done, I guess. It's different. So I think that's probably why things didn't tie in for me. Like, it didn't instantly click to me, okay, I should do that. Do you know what I mean? Like, you actually have to physically think about, okay, if I do this, I end up doing this, and it's not something that intuitively comes to mind for you to do.
Yeah.
But that's just me. I found I connected more to the Galerist, but there are people who find the Galerist harder.
Sure, absolutely.
I could play the Galerist in a night. We taught it, played it with a full amount of people, and in 4 hours. Versus Lisboa, oh lordy. We played with 2 people, and it still took 3 hours or so.
That's definitely a little bit weightier. I personally, your summary, which, you know, it's intense, but I'm still really excited for it because I like hand management. I like tile placement. And I will say I am swayed by aesthetics. Absolutely. I know this about myself. I'm fully transparent about it. And the game is just so beautiful. I'm really just excited to kind of play around in that board, you know, area with all that beautiful art and stuff too. So
no, it's really good.
Yeah. All right. Well, on the complete other end of the game spectrum, I've been playing Word Slam. Word Slam. Yeah, exactly. This is I guess it's a party game, for lack of a better term. It's a team-based party game designed by Inka and Marcus Brand, who are one of my favorite design couples out there. I think they designed the Exit series, the Exit Escape Room series of games as well. They've designed one of my favorite roll and write games, Nakmal. So I'm a big fan of the brands. And Word Slam is published by Cosmos, and there's really no artist because it's really just words on cards. So, but this is, you know, you play in teams, so you have a really big player count range that you can do. You know, you have to have a minimum of 4, but you can go up almost, I don't know, infinitely as long as people can see. And each team has the same deck of cards. Just, you know, there's like a red team and a blue team. And those cards have nouns, verbs, adjectives, and prepositions on them. And then there are a couple of plastic card holders so that, you know, only your team can see the cards that you're playing. And then there are the target deck, the target word deck. So you'll get a deck of cards, and each card has like 6 words on it. And it's completely random what these words are as far as I can tell. But there are difficulty scales. So you get these target decks, and there's red, yellow, green, and the dreaded super difficult black cards, which are tough. And the goal of the game is basically each team has a clue giver, and the goal is to be the first team to correctly guess the word. So you roll a die, and then both of the clue givers look at this card, and you know, the die indicates which word on the card you're trying to clue into. And then you put it down, and then you start. And the clue givers use these cards and put them in the trays so that their team can see it to try to clue you in. So, you know, maybe if the word is pancake, they're searching around and they're trying to find, okay, yellow, circle, eat, you know, and they're putting that, and then people are, you know, trying to figure out what that could be, and hopefully they get to pancake first. And it's really that simple. It's a super simple, mechanically, game. What's interesting is that because both teams are trying to get to the same word, there's this interesting thing where you're listening to what the other team is saying, too, to try to leech their clues. Because even though you can't see what their clue giver is putting up on the card tray, you can hear what they're guessing around that. And what I found was interesting, I've played this game a bunch, and what I found is interesting is that people react to that differently. So I've been in games of Word Slam where everybody's just, manically like shouting everything under the sun that they could think of could possibly be it, and it's loud and it's chaotic and it's wild. I've also been in games where people are trying to be strategic and sneaky, and so it's been these really intense games where teams are like huddled really close together and whispering to each other so that the other team doesn't hear, and then you're trying, it's funny how the same game can play out in fairly different ways, and I find it enjoyable both ways. personally, I prefer the more loud, shouty, raucous style of playing Word Slam, because anybody who knows me knows I love shouting. But I think it's really clever. There's a lot of pressure on the clue giver to be clever with the cards. And, you have this deck of cards. There's 2 theories of thought that you leave the decks of cards, like in a deck, and you're kind of, thumbing through the cards as fast as you can. Other people like to spread them on the table so that they can kind of see.
I was told that's the wrong way to play. That's what I've been told.
I've played it both ways, and I can't say I have a strong preference. But I think the rules say you leave it in a deck. I don't think the rules put you, but it's a party game. It's like the game concept. There's a way you keep score, but I don't think I've ever played where you're actually tracking who gets what points. You just play until you're done with the game, and it's so much fun. Another thing I love about this game is, I say it's a party game, but it's also like a great convention game, because it handles such a large player count. And because, score is meh, whatever, people can drop in and drop out at will. And I really love that flexibility for, a group activity, a group game, where people can join and quit, and you just have fun, and you trade off who's the clue giver, and, how people think comes into play, and things like that. It can be that super casual, energetic gaming experience for larger groups. And I think that's awesome.
Honestly, this game, I was probably a latecomer to the party with this one, and I thought, I'm not going to be very good at this game. Let me tell you, my category was fantastic. It was, had to do anything to do with poop. I seem to do very well with. My mom.
Good to know.
Okay, so some of the things I hear, So I literally just popped out, I think, 6 cards, bang, 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 and they got the answer. I don't know if it was like toilet seat or something like that, but everyone's like, "Wow, you were very efficient." I'm like, "It was a category. What can I say?" So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and of course, the clue giver can't speak. They can only communicate with the cards. But I've also seen people get very clever in how they use those cards. So one person, the word was pyramid. And so instead of hyper-focusing on what the words are, they stacked the cards kind of on top of each other.
Right.
So it kind of formed a flat pyramid to kind of indicate. And then they were waving the cards around and kind of tapping them in the tray to indicate. And I thought that was a super clever way of doing it, too. So I personally... Word Slam, definitely a keeper for me. Great for groups. A little bit thinky and a lot of fun.
I 100% agree. So now we're going to go from party to apocalypse.
Yikes.
So my next pick, I know, right? My next pick is Apocrypha, designed by Mike Slinker. Artist is Elisa Teague and Mike Valancourt. Now, to be fair, there is a long list of artists, but those are the main ones that are listed. Publisher is Lone Shark Games. So Apocrypha is a cooperative adventure type game, horror themed. For those of you who are familiar with it, will know, I'm going to say it right up the front. The rule book for this is, we're going to use the word intense. Let's go with that.
How diplomatic.
I think you know where I'm going. So I will have to make a big shout out to my friend Michael. We're going to be streaming this game, but he's the one who basically taught it to me, and then I went through the rulebook, and wow, it's interesting. So in Apocrypha, it is an adventure card game. And you're basically trying to thwart a modern apocalypse at the hands of 9 powerful entities called the Novum. Each of you is a saint with a halo of fragmented memories and a deck of cards that you can play. So this game is going to be a little difficult to explain via a podcast because there are a lot of symbols on the card. So I'll just give you a brief synopsis. So basically, during a turn, it's a cooperative game, so you're working together to try and close off the nexuses. So they're kind of like a portal would be another way to look at it. And a lot of these cards have actions that you can use, but you can only use them at specific times. So they'll have ones where there's a symbol where the action is talking about, okay, this action can be used just for you, or it can be used for player on your left, a player on the right, and they can only be used at certain times. So on each of Saint's turn, you go through a series of kind of turn steps. So as a saint, so on your turn, you would attempt a check. So a check at that nexus. And basically what you want to do is you have omen cards. And the omen cards, there's one kind of, there's a next card that's flipped up there, and then you want to play an omen. And there are bad omens and there are good omens. And yeah, some of them are awful and can really damage you, but we'll get to that in a second. So taking a turn goes through the following steps, and I'll do this really quick. So you start by drawing a card from the Doomsday Clock. So this is kind of like a timer in the game. So from there, you can support by helping other saints before you do an investigation, which is your next step. And you play powers to find gifts, omens, and threats in your nexus. Then when your investigation is completed, you can go on to support or investigate again if you'd like. Avoiding basically allows you to avoid confronting an investigated card because some of them can be negative. But now you're shuffling this card back into your nexus so it can come up again. You can confront, initiate, act, and terminate versus investigating cards as well. So these are just a few things that you can do. Sanctifying is a really important step because it allows you to close the nexus to win the game. I mean, there are a variety of scenarios. I'm just basically giving you the general idea. But you need specific cards to sanctify a nexus in order to close it.
That sounds so intense. Sanctify. My
sanctify.
Goodness.
I know. Some of the wording in here is great. Anyway, so I'm not going to go through everything, but there are other things you can do to help you do this, such as mutating, but then it now forces you to roll dice, and you think, oh, getting a low number is good. No, getting a low number is bad and leads to more bad things. So
yikes.
These are just a few things that you can do in the game. It's one of those games that it's a continuation. So you have games that can be kind of locked down or put back into the box for a later time. There's actually a way that you can set up your cards depending on where they're placed, like beside the card, on top of the card. So when you put it back, there's these sheets. So you put them in like a plastic kind of sheet. I don't know how to explain it. So where they're situated when you go to play your next game, that's where they are. So these positions mean something in the next game you play. So
that's a clever way to do a save state.
Yeah, like it's really cool. So anyway, so you get the general idea of the game. So if you're familiar with like Pathfinder, I believe Mike Flinker was the
involved in that too. Yes,
doing that. So if you like that type of game, you'll like it. This game is a lot of fun, but I'm not gonna lie, it's intense and it's a lot of reading and there's a bit of confusion. There's a lot of symbology to learn. I'm still learning it. Yeah. But I like the theme.
Do you think, is this, if people are a fan of like Pathfinder adventure card gamers, do you think that this will appeal with them? It has that kind of ongoing storyline, character building, and things like that people love about Pathfinder?
I think they will. It's the theme that I worry. This may not be a theme for everyone because it's super dark.
Mm-hmm.
Which I like, but that isn't for everyone. But yes, you have that character building, and I neglected to mention that, but you do have a character that has special abilities in the game, and yes, you can build on that. So yes, I think they would, but even as someone like me, who didn't really play a lot of Pathfinder, my brothers, that was more their thing, and I enjoyed my playthrough of it.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's a game that, like, if you don't have a recurring group, because that was always my problem with Pathfinder adventure card game, is I didn't have a group that regularly would meet to play through it and really let you maximize what you get out of that game experience. So I love the app.
Right.
But is Apocrypha the same, or do you think that, like, from a standalone game experience, there's a lot of meat there once you know the rules and all the symbols and stuff like that?
It's funny because I've been playing it with my friend Michael that I was telling you about. He's been playing it solo to kind of help learn it.
Cool. Okay.
And he said it's fine solo, but if you're trying to teach somebody, you really do need to play it with a group. He said it does help if you have a constant.
I bet.
Yeah, it's not mandatory, but it definitely gives a better feeling to the game.
Well, I think that's really how it's designed, is to kind of give this epic scale, continuing storyline thing. And boy, those games are so intense to design and develop. I mean, it's a pretty impressive feat. Absolutely. And it's a heavy box, because I got to pick up the box and I was like, oh my gosh, I could hurt somebody. I could break my toe with this.
Possible, I would avoid using too many mats. I know it might be kind of necessary, but I find it does kind of limit your space and it gets a little messy.
Okay.
So just my thought on that. But anyway, enough about depressing,
Well, I don't know. This next, the game I wanted to talk about, depending on how you view the theme, right? We're going to talk about Flipships. Flipships.
Excited.
I know you, and we've played this together.
Oh, yeah, I'm terrible.
I'm pretty bad too, actually. Flipships is a cooperative dexterity game designed by Kane Klenko, who also designed Fuse and Covert. The publisher is Renegade Games, and the art is by Kwanchai Moria, who is absolutely one of my top 5 board game artists. Such a talent, and this game is flipping gorgeous. See what I did there?
I saw
flipping gorgeous.
Yeah, I saw
that was intentional, and I know I'm going to get crap from my friends about making a pun intentionally, but there you go, people. It happened. Just let's move on. So it's a dexterity game, and it's cooperative. And cooperative games are not something I typically enjoy, but I will just, spoiler alert, I absolutely adore Flipships. It's one of my favorite dexterity games. And the game is all about, it's kind of like the Space Invaders theme. So Earth is being invaded by an alien horde. There's this big mothership and all these alien ships that are attacking, and you're trying to fight them off with your fighter jets or your fighter ships. And it's primarily card driven and I guess pog driven. Can we utter the word pog? Oh, wow. Because your ships are on these little circle chipboards, and so they, I don't know, if you're old like me, you remember pogs, and it
Pog
reminds me of pogs
accurate.
a little bit. So you've got this great long board that's laid out, and it's kind of like almost a measuring board because it lays out different zones. And then in the back of the board, way back down the table, you're going to lay out 2 rows of cards, and those are the alien ships, and they have different powers and different speeds. And then way down towards you, you can flip your ships off of the edge of the table, or they give you like a little wooden launching pad that you can elevate your chips with and make it easier to flip. And then you flip them, like flipping a coin. So one of the things that's maybe unique about this game and something I like is that you're flipping it like you flip a coin, not the way you flick things like you would do in Disc Duelers or Catacombs. So it's a different kind of dexterity there. And basically, you flip your ship, and if your chip lands on one of those alien spaceships, boom, it's gone. For the most part. Some take extra damage or whatever, but that's it. Mechanically, it's like super, super simple. And then the ships that you don't destroy advance based on what's on them. And, they get closer, which for me actually makes it easier to land on them. But if they get too close and they break the atmosphere line, then you start taking damage. And so the board also dictates how much damage you have and how much damage the mothership has. And then if you manage to destroy all of the alien fighter jets, then you got to take out the mothership, which is this 3D cardboard box, for lack of a better word, with this beautiful spaceship art that sits way on the back of the board, and you have to flick your chips into this box to damage the mothership, which is pretty amusing. And it's really cleverly designed because the back of the box actually is elevated a little bit, so it's almost like a backboard in basketball, so you can kind of ricochet off, which is super clever, really. I personally have had so much fun. It's a table stunner. Like, you lay this out and you start playing, and it instantly draws eyes because people are like, what are you doing? And people get really, really into it. And even though it's dexterity and it's difficult, because flicking them for accuracy can really be tough, the thing that they add to it to even kind of gamify it, to elevate it from that simplicity, is that the ships have different abilities.
Right.
And so at the beginning of the game, you randomize these abilities, and then they're assigned to a specific player. And, maybe it's, hey, if you land your chip within a certain length of a ship, it destroys it. Or maybe you get a reflip. Or if you get close to the mothership, you can re-angle or whatever. There's all sorts of abilities, which really adds more of a gamer element to it and makes it all the more interesting. What's the side note to that, though, is my one, I guess, criticism of the game is I find it can be difficult to track those abilities because they're randomized, which adds some variability, which is awesome. The ships, the abilities are assigned to the 3 different types of ships that you have. And so sometimes you're looking and you're flipping, okay, oh, wait, which ship is that? Is that the one that has this ability, or is that the one that has this ability, and things like that. So there's a little bit of, I don't know, mental fiddliness, for lack of a better term, around that. But ultimately, that's such a minor nitpick because the game is just fun. You're all working together, you're cheering each other on, you're flicking these ships, they're advancing, you're trying to be strategic about, okay, this one does 2 damage, so we have to take that out. And then you're very carefully aiming and completely with it. And then everybody makes fun of you, and it's hilarious. Super clever design, super engaging, a lot of fun, and it's a dexterity game that doesn't hurt my fingers when I flick pieces. Because, that's my one complaint about Catacombs, is it hurts after a while when I'm flicking those darn discs. So, I personally am just loving Flipships. It's gorgeous and it's fun, and that's a good one.
Do you think, just before, we go talk about anything else, but do you think it's a game that will lose its appeal? Some games are they come up a little, you know, there's some games that are like, oh, it's fun, it's great, and then it's like, okay, now it's on my shelf and it's dusty, and I'm like, I'm done with it. Like, do you think it's a game that you'll continue to kind of pull off yourself, like, okay, let's play Flipships, it's cool, or do you think you'll kind of go, yeah, I'm tired of that? I'm curious, because dexterity games for me are iffy. I generally don't like them, but I did like Flipships.
Yeah, I think if you don't like dexterity games, depending on what you don't like about them, it might still be worth checking out Flipships because it does play out a little bit differently. For me personally, this is one of my favorite dexterity games, and I think it's going to have some longevity for a few different reasons. I think the group environment as we play it just becomes really energetic and really fun. I like the dexterity element. I actually like the ship special abilities, even though I found, sometimes I had a hard time tracking them. I just thought it was fun. It's beautiful. You can play with a wide range of ages and all that kind of stuff. Other dexterity games I really enjoy. Catacombs is absolutely one of my all-time favorite dexterity games, too. But, like, for example, Flick 'em Up, I'm kind of over Flick 'em Up,
Right,
but I still love Catacombs, and I've had that for years. So it's an interesting question. I think if you like dexterity games, or you like those high-energy, cooperative group play game experiences, Flipships is definitely worth checking out. And maybe something comes along that replaces it, but right now it feels unique in my collection.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely one I'd like to get, so. As I know, I don't have it, but I have played it, as you've seen.
I know. And you were really bad at it, I have to admit.
I have nails, darn it.
I know.
Oh boy, so now going from flipping ships to racing cars in DownForce. This has been getting a lot of love lately. This was designed by Rob Devio, Justin D. Jacobson, Wolfgang Kramer. The artist, Tavis Coburn, Michael Crampton, publisher, Restoration Games. So, yeah.
I can talk about that. So, listeners may not be aware, but I am part of the Restoration Games team. It's just part-time. I freelance with them essentially to support them on the marketing end for their business. So as part of Restoration Games, I want to be completely transparent. I don't want, any shenanigans about, my association with them. When you talk about DownForce, I might chime in here, but of course people will automatically assume anything I say about DownForce or any Restoration Games is biased, and that's totally fair. So I'm going to let you roll with this. And hopefully people understand that, by being transparent, I'm trying to be as upfront as I can. But I'm really looking forward to hear what you say about it. Because, again, biased aside, I really like this one.
I was surprised that I liked it too, to be honest. It's not my type of game usually, but I enjoyed it. And it's an older game that people knew, and apparently it had paper money, so now there's no money. You mark it down on a sheet, which is great, so less things to worry about. So in DownForce, it's an auction-type betting game, and racing, of course. And basically, you're bidding on race cards, and you're placing bets secretly on who is going to win. The game has 3 parts. The auction, the cards are auctioned off to the highest bidder, and in that case, too, there are special abilities that come with that. I know you end up having to choose one in the end, so you get selection, but choose one, and those are really useful in the game. And then there's the race where, the cars race around the track. And how do you do that? Well, we have these cards in the game which have the colors listed of each car, and it has a number that tells you how many spaces you can move that specific car color on the track. Now, again, depending on the power you have or other players have, can affect that movement. And there's even some wild on there, so you get to choose which ones you'd like to move. Then there's the betting, which takes place during the race when players bet on who the winning car is going to be, or what they think the winning car is going to be. After the race is over, players add up all their money to see who wins. It is legitimately that straightforward. So we played this game. I think I've played it with 2 players and I've played it with 6 players. And I got to tell you, fun in both scenarios. 6 players was great. People were getting loud and crazy because of the whole betting thing. Even though it's secret, I'm like, this is the loudest secret betting I've ever heard. But okay. I really enjoyed it. And I had never played the original, but someone there had owned the original. They said it looked nicer. It seemed cleaner because he didn't have the paper money that I was talking about. He said it just looked really colorful and fun. It's simple. What you see is what you get. I liked it a lot.
Oh, good. I'm obviously really, really glad to hear it. Yeah, again, anything I say will be viewed as biased, but I love DownForce. I think it's gorgeous. Like, I'm glad you mentioned the look of it. I think that the visuals are really, really pretty. And I really enjoyed being at Dice Tower Con, and where it was kind of the first time people could really get to it.
Yes.
And it was so much fun watching people play it and enjoy it. So I won't say much about it because I don't want to, do that. But I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed it, and I hope you could, like, if you didn't enjoy it, it's okay for you to say that too to me. I don't mind.
No, I totally love it. And can I just say, this is like a side note, my favorite moment of playing this game was when I played with JR, Andrew Wolf from USAopoly, and JR also works with Restoration, and a few other people, and Gil Hova, who's another game designer. Every time his car had to be moved, he's like, no, I will move my own car. I don't think he trusted any of us.
That's right, because it's a special building.
Because that's something that I would do. So Gil, you made my day with that. So
very wonderful.
Yeah. What's up on your list?
All right, so last one before we move on into some other fun stuff. I wanted to mention Sakura Hunt. Now, I've only played this once, but I am so enchanted by it. I had to talk about it. This is a game that's coming out. I think its official release is actually Essen this year.
Fantastic.
So it's not quite out yet, but I was lucky enough to get a preview copy. And this is being published by a group called Jugami Studio out of Japan. And the designer and artist, a multi-talented individual, is Yu Maruno. Now, Sakura Hunt, it's a small box card-based game, and it's based on, I guess, the traditional Japanese thing called hanami, which I had to look it up, which is the custom of enjoying the transient beauty of sakura blossoms.
Oh.
I mean, how delightful is that? I love games that tackle an uncommon theme. And similar to like Tokaido, right, where you're just going on a journey. It's so pleasant. And Sakura Hunt has that too. Gameplay-wise, this is a game about hand management and set collection because you have a deck of cards numbered 1 through 10 with different scenes on them. And ultimately, you're trying to get these cards into your personal tableau for endgame points. And you also get points when you collect them. And I got to stop here and just say the thing that drew me to this game initially was its appearance. This game is stunningly beautiful. It has an interesting art style where it's a little bit more modern. It uses like vector art, modern vector art, but it covers just this traditional Japanese scene, like blossom trees and pagodas, and every card has a name. Like if you look at the rulebook, every scene has a name, like the 5-tier pagoda or the Tokyo Tower. And when you put the cards together in a line, 1 through 10, it forms a single panorama. Again, similar to Tokaido.
Oh, cool.
It is gorgeous. Oh my gosh. I could just start, like, I'm honestly thinking about buying a second copy of the game and framing the panorama assembled. Wow. It's that pretty to me. All right. Because, I mean, hey, if you're going to play a game, why not have a beautiful thing to look at while you're playing, right?
I agree 100%.
Basically, you're going to have 4 rows, and you have a little hand of cards, and you play a card. You can draw a card, play a card to the central area, or you can exchange a card from your hand with the central area, or you can do the hanami, which involves playing cards from your hand to the tableau so that you get 3 in a row, like 1, 2, 3, or 7, 8, 9, or 3 of a kind, 1, 1, 1. And then you get to collect those cards and place them in your personal lineup in front of you. The number of points you get when you take those cards depends on how many cards are in that row. So timing is really critical. And because you want a perfect hanami, right? You want the best possible view of these blossoms. So if you wait until you time it perfectly, you get maximum points there. And then you play through pretty quickly. Once everybody has basically taken cards from each row,
right,
the game's over. And at the end of the game, if you score points for your panorama, right? Remember how I said those cards 1 through 10 form a panorama? There's actually a purpose to that. So if you get 1 through 10, you get like 21 points, and it's huge maximum points and all this other stuff. And then you also get bonus points for set collection amongst like numbers of a kind. Like if you have, 3 5s.
Right.
It's actually pretty simple mechanically. And when I saw it, I thought, oh, this will be a pretty game. It's a light hand management game. It'll be really fun. Then we played it. And whoa, there's actually some depth to it. Like, we realized pretty quickly, holy cow, the timing of when you're exchanging cards, being aware of what other people might be working towards, and, you know, a little bit of take that where you're maybe exchange a card just so you block somebody, things like that. How you focus on, you know, building up your panorama or getting 3 of a kind, being aware of what you have in your hand. It had some thinkiness to it that I have to admit I had not realized I was getting into, which just made the game wonderful. And I've only played it once, but I had a great time. I cannot wait to play it again. I'm actually hoping to play it tonight again. And the best thing, or one charming element, I should say, is there are sake cards in the game. Because what beautiful journey is complete without a lovely beverage? And so sake cards basically serve as a wild. And
because you don't know what's going to happen.
Right, yeah. Sake, kanpai. But I thought that was a charming detail as well. So that is Sakura Hunt by Yu Maruno. It comes out at SN, I believe. I'm really enjoying this one. People should definitely check it out. If nothing else, it's gorgeous.
It sounds great. And when you started talking about it, I'm like, oh, it kind of sounds like it might have elements like Seasons, the 4 Seasons game I was talking about.
Oh, yeah,
yeah, because some of it sounded a little bit similar, but then this kind of goes beyond that by creating that, you know, panoramic image. And this one actually might have a bit more strategy involved and kind of, wow, it actually seems like it might have more of that take that element, which apparently I seem to like more of these days. So.
Ah, interesting. Yeah.
I saw it on your Instagram. It looked very, very good.
Yeah, I'm excited about that, and it's always fun to discover a new publisher, so I'm pretty stoked about that. All right, should we go and look at some crowdfunding stuff?
Absolutely. I think we've got a really awesome one that people are going to enjoy. Hit that pledge button and take my money. All right, so now we are ready to talk about some crowdfunding, and one in particular caught our eye, Legend of Korra, which is designed by Sen Fung Lim and Jesse Wright, and the publisher is IDW Games. So this is a game to me that was really pretty. I liked the idea, but let's be honest, I had no idea that this was a cartoon. Eek. But I know Suzanne knows a lot about this. This is kind of her realm here. You know, unfortunately, there's no Michael Cena here. But
oh my God, Michael Cera. That was so funny. Anybody who picked up on that last time we recorded was so funny.
That was very funny. So, but I actually do know who he is. Mm-hmm. Okay, so back on task. So, Suzanne, why don't you take the lead on this one?
Okay. Well, I think it's great that it even caught your eye not being a fan of the show. Legend of Korra Pro Bending Arena Deluxe Edition, right? It's based on the Nickelodeon cartoon Legend of Korra, which was a sequel series to one of my all-time favorite cartoons, The Last Airbender. Okay, I'm going to stop. But anyway, I'm just getting all fanish about it.
People are going to love it. People are going to love it.
In Legend of Korra has this really rich world building thing where some people called benders have the power to use elemental abilities like earth, fire, etc. to their will. And I was so excited that they created a game out of it. I've actually really wanted a Last Airbender board game, so this looks great. So what they did for Legend of Korra, similar to actually like what they did with TAC, is the pro bending game that this is based on was actually in the series. So instead of making a game that follows the narrative of the show, they actually took a game that was in the television series and made a real game out of it, which is what they did for TAC, right? Which was part of these books that Patrick Rothfuss, right? And then they actually designed a real game around it. And that's what they did here. And it's a 2-player only game where you are each controlling a team of benders, and you know, there's a movement on the board, and ultimately you win by either invading your opponent's territory or by knocking the other team completely off the back of the board. And it's really a deck building driven game where you're going to have cards that give you the abilities to move or attack or block and things like that. And you can choose to use cards for the ability or trade them in for chi, which then is how you build up your deck. That's like your currency for building up more of your deck. And what I really, really like about this game is the variety included in it. So not only do you have that deck building element for those action cards, you also, each team has a unique built-in ability. And then there are these trick cards that you get to add to your team that really let you personalize the way the team plays out. And on top of all that, there are 9 different teams included in this game. So it's only a 2-player game, but you can pick from all these different teams that have, asynchronous abilities and play them against each other and all that jazz. And I think that is super great. And there are miniatures, which I don't know. And I'm not a miniatures fan in general. Like, I don't mind them, but they're not kind of the thing that attracts me to a game. But I really like these minis because it's not just people, standing with a costume on. The poses of these miniatures are so dynamic and thematic. Their legs are up in the air and kicks, or they're punching, or they've added like air whooshes and things like that to it too. And I think that is a really smart, clever way of doing minis for a game like this. So I'm excited.
I think you need it. I think you need the miniatures in this type of game because it is like a, battle type game. And if you have the miniatures when you're doing it, it's like you can feel and immerse yourself in what you're doing versus if it's just a card. I'm not saying you can't do it, just a card, requires a little bit more imagination. But when you actually have it there, I don't know, I feel like you can put yourself in the position of the game. Like, I don't know the background of the cartoon and the story, but I like the fact that you can customize your deck. Mm-hmm. That to me was huge. Do you know what I mean? And then you can choose to use powerful cards, or slightly less powerful cards, but then they're giving you a bit more risk. So, I don't know.
Yeah, so it's great to hear that a person who doesn't know all the background still thinks that there's something interesting in the game.
Right. It looks interesting to me, and it's not an overly long game. I think it's on the shorter end.
Yeah, you should probably play in about 30, 45 minutes.
30 minutes? Yeah, so it's definitely something that it can appeal to anyone. You don't necessarily need to know the story, but then you may feel like, ooh, I may have to go and watch the cartoon now, which I might have to do.
It's a great story. Start with Avatar: Last Airbender because that's phenomenal too. But
I'm familiar with though. Okay. My brothers were really into it. So.
Oh, that's adorable. I like your brothers. If people are interested in checking out Legend of Korra Pro Bending Arena Deluxe Edition with all those minis and all those teams, it takes a pledge of $65 on Kickstarter.
Not too shabby for miniatures.
Yeah, pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of stuff packed into that one for sure.
Let's discuss those previously discovered board game gems in Shelf Staple. All right, and we are back with another fun episode of Shelf Staple. I know some people missed this one, so we're excited to talk about some of those older gems. So I'm going to start off with what I've played, and some of you may remember it, Pastiche. And this was published in 2011. It's also known as Petite Pastiche. It was designed by Sean McDonald. There are several artists. I will list a few. Jean-Frédéric Bazille, Sandro Botticelli, Mary Cassatt, and Paul Cézanne, and multiple artists. So thank you.
I may have heard of a few of those before.
Exactly. Publisher is Eagle Griffin Games and Pegasus Spiel. So in Pastiche, players complete commissions of European and American artworks from the past 6 centuries. Wow, sounds pretty fun. I love art. So the goal of Pastiche is to score the most points, which are earned by completing your commission cards, so these paintings, through collecting the necessary palette cards for each one. Scores are calculated at the end of the round, in which one player has reached a certain number of commission card points. So this game really appealed to my artist side because, I like art.
Sure.
And I like makeup, so it all kind of goes together. And in the game, it's really neat. So in order to acquire these colors to help you complete these commissions, you use these hexagon pieces. So on a turn, you're going to be able to place them next to others, and you mix colors. Mm-hmm. So the colors you're mixing give you cards, and certain colors are kind of like special types of colors, so it requires a little bit more to get those colors. So it is a bit of a brain burner when you are trying to place those tiles to come up with the colors, because you're like, okay, if I place it here, I'm going to get these colors, but then the next player is going to come, and then they're going to get the colors that they want, and you don't want to readily give them those colors. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I loved the commission cards, the actual art. I mean, some of them I knew right away, because I'm a huge fan of Degas, who does a lot of art with the ballerinas. So, I mean, that was my favorite when I was a child. So, definitely recognized those right away. Loved it. Basically, in the round, it's about mixing the paints, completing the cards, and I love the board. I think in Petite Pastiche you don't get this, but there's the board where you place all the paints.
Okay.
It's the palette. The huge palette. Oh. So I made sure that I got the original one because it comes with the palette and then it comes with those little easels like they have in the galleries so you can put your little cards on. I can't. I love it.
I love those little touches.
It's great. So when people look at it, they think, it's going to be boring or, it's going to be super easy. Yes, some elements use it, but I find that placing those tiles and mixing the colors are difficult. Now you can also trade in the game. So you can trade paints with other players, which is neat. But let me tell you, some people get vicious. They just want a clean house. You want one special color. They're like, I want 4 of these colors. Like, it's ridiculous. Really enjoyed this game. Really got the mind going. I think, isn't that a Mensa?
I haven't. I don't know. I'd have to look that up.
I may be wrong about that, but I believe it is one of those games. Anyways, thoroughly enjoyed it and was very happy to pull that out again.
Oh, I'm envious. I have to admit, I've never gotten to play Pastiche. I don't own it. I would love to own it. I gotta track this one down. I love games that include color theory.
Yes.
That might be brutal for people who are colorblind, so that I can definitely understand that would be a frustration. And I'm lucky enough that I'm not colorblind, and so games that have color theory are just really appealing to me. So no, I can't go shopping before Essen. But I really want to try
to play it when we meet up.
Okay. No,
yes.
Hopefully soon. Well, I wanted to talk about a 2-player game called Kahuna, and that's what it's currently published as. This was actually originally published in 1997, and when I was looking this up, I was like, that is 20 years ago. Holy cow. And for me, I had a moment when I realized, oh my gosh, 97 was 20 years ago, and I had emotions. Anyway, Kahuna was designed by Gunter Cornett, and the artists are Michaela Kienle, Anka Pohl, Thilo Rick, and Klaus Stefan, and it's currently published by Cosmos, and that's who you can pick it up from today, even though it's had, like many of these older games, they've had, various publishers. This is an area control and hand management game. And in general, I'm a big fan of the Cosmos 2-player series. I have a bunch of them in my collection. Even though I don't get to play 2-player games very much, I still really enjoy them when I do get to play them. And Kahuna is set in, this fictional series of islands. Is that called an archipelago? Is that what it's called? I'd have to look up mine.
I think, I'd have to look it up, but I think so.
Okay, well, I'm sure the internet will correct me because that's what the internet loves to do. And you get a board, and there are 12 fictitious islands on them with kind of, pithy, cute little names. And then you have cards with those islands on them individually as well. And basically, you're going to be drawing cards, and you get cards, and then you can use those cards to build bridges between these islands or destroy bridges between these islands. And when you get majority of bridges connected to a single island, then you basically control that island, and you get to put your little token on it. And then, of course, when cards are used to destroy bridges, you could lose majority and then tokens exchange, etc. So it is, most area control games are somewhat aggressive, and Kahuna is no exception, even though mechanically it's extremely simple. You're getting cards, you play a card to add a bridge, you play 2 cards to destroy a bridge, boom. Like, that's the whole thing. And you play through the deck 3 times, and it's interesting how, even though you're playing through the same cards, based on the way the board state has changed through those rounds, it feels different and the tension really escalates. And you actually score after each of those rounds, and the points escalate as well. So in the first round, you get 1 point. In the second round, you get 2 points. And in the third round, you score based on the difference of majority, which I like that. It adds a twist. It makes you think a little bit differently. But overall, Kahuna, it's very simple. It's very quick. The components in the Cosmos edition are awesome. And it's a nice, easy, mean little area control game that I really enjoy. So that is Kahuna, published by Cosmos.
I know Z had mentioned this one before, to me anyway, and I'm relatively certain that he enjoyed this one. And it was one of those games that he said, it's definitely one you should try. I know it's been around for a long time, and I keep hearing it come up. And when I went to order it, it was actually back ordered.
Oh, go figure.
So, Yeah, so I think it's still relatively popular.
Well, and I think that's one of the things I like about Shelf Staple and the chance, that we get to talk about older games is, especially for games like Pastiche or Kahuna, that have longevity. I mean, Kahuna's 20 years old and it's still selling. I think that says something about the quality of the game. And sure, new games come and go. They may copy themes or mechanisms or things like that. But I think when a game, especially for as many games as you as I play, I think that when we can look at a game that we've been playing for years, that are still on our shelf years later, and we still enjoy, I think that says something about the game and the quality of the game. And I love that we get to highlight those here.
And can I tell you, just before, we go on, it reminds me of a show that I used to watch as a kid. Anyone who can guess what this show is, I will be super impressed, because I was fairly young. But a lot of the people that are in this show are still in the movies. And basically what I'm saying is a lot of that comedy and stuff in the show kind of transcends into some of the things you see today. It's just different, right?
Sure.
So there were a couple characters. One ringy-dingy, two ringy-dingy.
I'm sorry.
Here comes the judge. Here comes the judge. Here comes the judge.
I honestly have no idea what's happening right now. Like, what the heck is going on? I have no idea what show you're referencing. And this, really? No.
Oh my gosh,
what is even happening?
So every time we come to this segment, I literally feel that I have to reference like an older show while we're at it.
I love it.
So if I'm seriously, I'm putting that out to the masses. Anybody who can tell me what those references are from, I will be thoroughly impressed.
Okay, I am, as soon as we're done recording, I'm going on the internet and searching, because I have no idea what's happening, and you are wackadoo. Oh my goodness.
I love it. I like to keep you guys on your toes. Oh boy. So I think that'll conclude our show.
Moving right along.
We'll conclude our little segment on Shelf Staple. Q&A.
Thank you to everyone who emailed Mandi and I with questions. It was so much fun to see our inbox fill up. And it actually did fill up. Y'all have a lot of questions, so we're gonna do our best. We've got them all down. We created like a little document where we're gonna keep track of them all, and we're gonna get through as many as we can today for kind of a bigger Q&A. But we'll save the ones that we don't get to and jump on them later. And we've talked about maybe doing like a Q&A on the YouTube channel or something too, because it was really fun to read through all your questions, and we don't want you to feel ignored. So we promise that we will work through that list and get to them. And certainly if you want to add to our massive list, feel free to email us your questions at SuzanneandMandi@gmail.com. And that's Mandy with an I.
Yes, with an I.
Alrighty. So Kirk, I love this question. Simple. And Kirk emails us, what is your least favorite game mechanism?
Okay, so my friends who are listening are going to laugh so hard when I say this, but deck building probably would be up there. However, as of late, guess what all the games I've been playing?
Seriously?
Deck builders. I know. So I'm totally being hypocritical there. So I just had to throw that one to start, but I would have to say it's a tie between deduction and dexterity. I just really don't like those types of games.
Interesting.
I don't know what it is.
Well,
yeah.
Sure, no, that makes sense. For me, any memory game, I hate. Like, it's going to be pretty uncommon for me to enjoy a memory game, a game that has a heavy memory component. And along those lines, any game that has you turning the components or the cards or the tiles away from you.
Oh, yes.
I don't like, because one, those games tend to be cooperative, and I'm not a big cooperative game fan. And two, they usually rely on a strong memory element. And I guess I just have a bad memory, and I do horribly at those games, and I don't personally enjoy the challenge. Like, some games I can be awful at. Like, I'm bad at almost all the games. My win ratio on games is like 27%.
Oh, me too. But you know what? We have fun playing.
But yeah, I have fun. But,
okay.
For me, I just don't enjoy games that have that memory element. I don't even enjoy the challenge. So those are my least favorite.
Yeah, and that's probably why deduction's on my list.
Yeah.
Because it does require a certain part of memory, and I just don't have it.
Which is so interesting, because I love deduction. Like, Sleuth is a very pure deduction game, but it doesn't have a super big memory element because you can take notes. Like, you literally get a pad of paper that you're writing on, which helps.
Okay, so a deduction game that I could get down with. I like that.
Maybe I'll have to just try you on Sleuth sometime. Okay.
Yes. So, thank you, Kurt, for that question. Moving on to Jonathan. And Jonathan asks, what are your favorite solo playable roll and write games, and what pies would be best to eat while playing them? So I definitely think this is directed at you, but I am going to give my input as well.
I'm excited to hear what you have to say. And oh boy, Jonathan, you have no idea what kind of, can you have opened here, because now, all right, everybody, buckle in for the next 3 hours while I talk about roll and writes and pies. All right, let's get going here. No. I'll try to be brief. So a lot of roll and writes are great for solo, and that's one of the things I love about them. So some of my favorites that have favorite solo modes are Avenue, Dice Stars, Octo Dice, Steamrollers, St. Malo, and Quicks. Those, I actually wrote them down because I was so excited about this question, and I didn't want to blow out the episode just rambling, so I actually wrote them down. So there's my list. Those also tend to be roll and writes I like in general, and I think are just really solid and interesting mechanically. And all of them tend to play quickly. They don't have, roll and writes tend to be fairly compact in components, so they're great portable things. I've actually laminated a bunch of roll and writes, and I have this little zipper pouch, and I just throw a bunch of sheets in there, some dry erase pens, and the dice, and I carry that around with me with a travel gaming bag. And so I've gotten a lot of use out of those. And so those are some of my favorite solos. And as to the trick question that Jonathan tried to sneak in there as to what pies would be best to eat, that's a total trick question, because the answer is any pie, because it's always time for pie. So, nice try, Jonathan. I gotcha. But Mandy, I know you've really gotten into roll and writes too. Like, you and I talk about them all the time. So what do you even play them solo though much?
I am not a solo game player.
Okay.
However, all the ones, I have tried a couple of the ones you talked about. So Steamrollers, I really enjoy that game, and I did enjoy that one solo. I tried it because sometimes I'll learn them in order to teach others. And I haven't, there was another one you mentioned there. Was it Quicks? Yes, I play Quicks, but I play the app. So
the app is so great.
Solo, but I play the app. Mm-hmm. So, but all the ones you listed are fantastic. So I definitely agree with you there. The pie question, I love that. You're like, that's a trick question. See, for me, I would just depends. Like, when I'm playing games, I want something comfortable. And that's not the time to be trying a new pie. It needs to have the proper crust ratio. Mm. So, little bit of crust, flaky, with the filling. And my favorite pie is apple with a piece of cheese on top.
Yes.
Oh, so
that
good.
Salty, sweet blend, the slight creaminess of the cheese with the, yeah.
So I got to go out there with the apple because it's comfortable. Aww. When I'm playing games, I like to be comfortable.
I love that. And now we need to stop recording this episode so I can go get some pie, because I'm getting super hungry. The rest of this episode is going to be hangry mode. Let's do it.
Exactly. Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks, Jonathan. All right, Gazensha writes in and asks, where would you draw the dividing line between board game apps and video games? I have to think about this one.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Because, I actually am okay with categorizing board games apps as video games. I mean, it is a digital gaming experience. I find a lot of board gamers are very anti-technology and very anti-board game app and anti-companion app. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, I understand that perspective. I do, like cognitively, I get it. I just personally don't share that. I think it's about options and choice. And, the reason why I've talked about this before, the reason why I play board game apps is I don't get as many gaming nights in as I want to. And the board game apps allow me to get, to satisfy my craving to game without having to be out and about. Now, the dividing line between board game apps and video games, I think that is, to me, that's more of a nomenclature labeling issue that board gamers may have than anything else. So call it a video game, call it a board game app. I think for our hobby and for the people I typically get to talk to, board game app is a little cleaner, and it makes more sense instantly to my friends.
Right.
But I mean, ultimately, aren't board game apps video games?
Well, see, when I think video games, and maybe because I'm old, okay? Like, I have an Xbox One.
Watch it, girl. I'm older than you, so.
But when I think video games, I think, okay, Nintendo, PlayStation, but you have a specific controller that you need to play this app. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's on a different level.
Sure.
When I'm playing the app for a board game, it is legitimately the board game, but it's now electronic. Do you know what I mean? So I guess I could see people saying video game, but to me, I don't see that. I see video game as a completely separate entity. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I can understand that. And, like, are you thinking also in terms of, like, for example, a dungeon crawl would be a great example of, when you're playing on a board game, you have tiles and pieces that you're moving. But theoretically, if you were to make a board game video game out of a dungeon crawl, you could literally make it like a 3D, your like Doom style adventure as you're going through it. And maybe that crosses that line of
like,
video
I think
game.
Those types of apps can be made into video games.
Oh, sure. Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like, think of Elder Sign. Elder Sign legit could be made into a video game.
Absolutely, with the adventure and the things like that. No, it's a good point. I hadn't really thought about that. That's an interesting dividing line. I would want to think some more about that one.
Yeah, that's actually really... You know what? That could be a fantastic topic for Victory Point.
Noted. Let's jot that down.
So we're going to take note of that one. So thank you for that question. You've invoked some... thought.
Extra thinking.
So, exactly. Nothing wrong with that. All right. So moving on to Tom's question. Any chance you'll get the chance to discuss your kids' favorite games? So I do not have children, but I can be a big child sometimes and play games that kids might like.
Well, and you were a teacher.
I was a teacher for about 4 years. So so I definitely can talk from that aspect. So I'm looking at the list here that Tom has, and definitely Harry Potter was one that I've played and enjoyed. Happy Pigs is another one that I actually own and really like. A friend, Nicole, introduced me to Go Cuckoo. I really like that game.
That's a great HABA game, yeah.
Oh, and Drakenturn? So Dragon Tower, I think it is in English. That, have you not played it?
No.
Oh, it's so fun. I really like that one a lot. Because you get to push, basically you're trying to get the princess out of the castle, safely out of the castle before it collapses. And the dragon is tied to a rock, and it's on like a timer thing. So you pull it, and then it kind of slowly pulls the rock from under the castle. So you need to get the princess out before the castle collapses.
Oh, that sounds intense.
Oh, I know, it's so fun, but I think it's just because I get to destroy a castle. Even if we get her out.
Well,
Castle fall.
Oh, I'll have to check that one out. That's awesome.
Super fun. But you have kids.
I do. So I have an 8-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son, and I'm really happy that both of them enjoy games, and I get to play with them. And it's fun because as my daughter gets a little bit older, she's expanding into more grown-up games and that are more entertaining typically for me to play with her. So I'm really excited about that. Now, some people, I have a friend on Twitter, and like, he's playing like Lisboa with his 7-year-old and
oh, wow.
Caverna and all these, and more power to them. And that is amazing. And I'm in awe. My kids tend to be more juvenile in their game taste, and and more typical age range on the box. And that's totally fine. So, like, even Happy Pigs, like, I think Happy Pigs might be that mechanically she might enjoy it, but a lot of the strategy of Happy Pigs might escape her at this age. Doesn't mean she wouldn't enjoy it, but it's not actually one I've tried with her. Maybe I should. We really enjoy Outfoxed, which is a little deduction game, and it's cooperative, which my son, especially my 5-year-old son, especially really loves. And man, they will pull this game out, set it all up, and be like, let's play. It's cute. It's interesting. It's engaging. I enjoy it with them. Quicks, actually, that roll and write game we talked about. I mean, it's like Yahtzee, right? I mean, a lot of people play Yahtzee. Quicks is a better Yahtzee. We really like that one. Tiny Park. I think it's Tiny Park, which is just coming out from HABA.
Okay.
This
yes,
is, they use polyominoes, so you have those Tetris-shaped cardboard pieces that you're trying to fit on your player board, and you use dice, kind of that Yahtzee dice rolling mechanism so that you can purchase the park pieces that you put into your board. It's actually a re-theme of a game called Mummy's Treasure that Haba did. And the new theme park the theme park theme is so much better. And the art is so bright and chipper and cheerful and fun. And so we're big fans of Mummy's Treasure, but I'm actually going to get the re-theme too, because I think we'll enjoy it all the more. Tiny Park from Haba. So those are some of the games. I mean, typically anything from Haba games we're interested in. Yeah. Anything from Blue Orange games we're interested in. Yep. For
absolutely.
The kids that are younger, Peaceable Kingdom produces a lot of great cooperative games for younger kids. We've enjoyed those a lot. But based on what he's got like 15-year-olds, 12-year-olds. Like at 15, I just play whatever, right? 15-year-olds can handle pretty much anything.
Right.
So yeah, so those are some of the kids' games. Cool. And I think Tom actually also asked, and I love this one could really take some time. What games are you looking forward to seeing, trying, buying at Essen?
Oh my gosh. So, to be fair, I didn't know about this list. Suzanne has made me privy to a list of what's being previewed at Essen.
On Board Game Geek, so yeah, but I'm going to interrupt you.
Yes, please.
Board Game Geek has created a brand new I guess convention tool or release tool, and you can add all these games are in the Essen preview list, and then you can click on must have, interested, maybe, or not interested for all of these games, and then you get a personalized list. Then later you can go to view my picks, and it shows everything. It's such a wonderful tool, and if you haven't checked it out on BoardGameGeek.com, you got to try it. And that's essentially what I pointed you to, Mandy, was the Essen preview list.
Yeah. Which I was very happy to see. So I'm not going to give you the whole list because I'm still going through it, and it's massive, like ridiculously massive. But so definitely at the top of my list, and this should be no shock or surprise to anyone, Merlin, which is currently on Kickstarter, but to ship that to Canada is what I would have to sell my left leg in order to get it here. So I'm going to wait until I go to Essen, and I will definitely be checking that out. So definitely looking, probably buying.
Gee, Mandy, why are you interested in... Yeah, exactly. There you go.
It's a foul. I also had... So that one is on my list. There was another one called Harvest Dice. I think that's by Grey Fox Games.
Oh, yeah, designed by Danny Devine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. So that one looks really cute. Is that the one with like the little pig first marker?
Yeah, it's a roll and write game, exactly. And they added this adorable little pig marker. Probably unnecessary, but completely adorable and awesome.
What can I say? I'm easy to please, okay? So... I mean, those are a couple that I'm looking at. To be fair, I'm still going through the list of 600 and some odd games. So I know, and I'm pretty sure this is at Essen. It potentially could be on Kickstarter, and you might even know this. AEG is coming out with one, and it's going to have the tower, and it's going to have some card crafting in it as well. The name is escaping me
Edge right now. Of Darkness.
That's it. Edge of Darkness. Okay, it had all the elements. I'm like, oh, tower, Amerigo, Feld-like. It had the card crafting like in Custom Heroes, which I was all about. It looks very interesting to me. So I'm not sure if that's an Essen release, but...
Or a preview, yeah.
Or preview. I think potentially a preview.
Not to, just as a tangent, I got to test, or I guess play a prototype, not test, but play a prototype of Edge of Darkness. Like, it didn't even have any art on it or anything like that. It was really... really rough. It had like a taped together cardboard tower that still worked. It was pretty cool. Oh, it was, card crafting like Mystic Vale and Custom Heroes, it's a little bit lighter. Edge of Darkness definitely is taking it into like the more deep, meaty game territory, and I had a lot of fun with it. So I didn't even know it was on the Essen list. I missed it, so I gotta go check that out.
Well, I hope it is. I'm assuming it is.
Oh, you're projecting.
I had it at Gen Con to show, but that is one that I will definitely be looking forward to. Now, there are a ton more, but those are just the ones I've had a chance to look at. Let's revisit this question before Essen, and I'm sure I will have a well-crafted list for you then.
For reals. It's silly because honestly, one of the silliest little things I am most excited about at Essen is they announced special new tiles for the game number 9. NMBR9. I know you're laughing at me, but number 9 is this new game. It just released, kind of in a larger market by Z-Man. And it uses polyominoes, which is one of my favorite mechanisms. And it's very simple mechanically, but very engaging. It's very puzzly. And they've got these, I guess they're promos. I don't know what they are, but I'm getting multiple copies if I can to bring home for my friends. We're all so excited about these silly little promo tiles for number 9 of all things. But I think Osprey Games' reprint of London is premiering at Essen.
Oh, yes.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
This is, it would be a great shelf staple game for me. I love London. I got introduced to it not too long ago, actually, by a friend, and I fell in love instantly. It's lighter for the designer, and card-driven game, and Osprey is just doing such a bang-out job of making beautiful games. And it looks like what they've done with London is just make a stunning version and mixed it up a little bit, where London you have a map board, now you have map cards, so maybe they've added some variability, which is amazing. So I'm super excited to see what Osprey's done with London. And another one that's super high, as a Euro game fan, and Essen, Gen Con tends to have a broader mix of games and a lot of more Amerithrashy style games. And Essen tends to have more Euro style games, right? So I get very excited about that show. Altiplano, I think that's how you pronounce it. Altiplano, designed by Rainer Stockhausen, who, if that name doesn't, that's the designer of Orléans. And I love Orléans. And
Orléans fantastic.
Yeah. And Altiplano is a deck and pool building game, a new one by Rainer Stockhausen. So if I were running to a booth, I would be running to check out Altiplano, because I'm pretty excited about that one. So those are some of the ones. But I went through that BGG list and I started clicking, must have, interested, must have, interested. And right now, I think out of the almost 700 games in that list, I've got 60 games on my personal interest list.
Well, as you're chatting right now, what do you think I'm doing?
Yeah, you're clicking a lot of must-haves and a lot of interested. So
click it away.
It'll be interesting to see when I come back. I think I have to buy a bigger suitcase before I. All right, well, we'll wrap up that, because this we answered a lot of questions. Normally, we won't probably go through quite as many, but we know, being newer hosts to the podcast, people are a little curious, and so we wanted to dive a little more deeply into Q&A for you. But next Suzanne and Mandi episode, we'll be back with a victory point. So look on the Board Game Geek Guild for our latest topic and poll there, so you can chime in. And looking forward to that. And we'll do Q&A in a couple episodes and get to more of your questions then. Okay, I think that wraps up our episode 522. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. We really appreciated all of the questions that you emailed us with. That was really awesome, and we look forward to tackling more of those in a future episode. The next time you're going to hear from Mandi and myself will be episode 524, and we will be back with Tap That App and Victory Points. So don't forget to check out the Guild on BGG for that poll.
Thanks for listening. Promotional consideration has been provided by game publishers in the form of review copies of games. This podcast is sponsored by listeners like you. Thank you for your continued support. And speaking of support, the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund is an organization dedicated to helping gamers in need. Learn more about the fund's mission and how you can help at jackvassell.org. The Dice Tower is produced by Tom, Suzanne, Mandi, and Eric, with assistance from Itai Perez, Derek Porter, and Rob Searing. Our theme is composed by Timothy Pinkham and arranged by Matt Bellier. And hosting is provided by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games at great prices at coolstuffinc.com. Let us know what you think of the show by posting to the Dice Tower Guild at BoardGameGeek.com, following the Dice Tower on Twitter, or by emailing us at dicetower@gmail.com. And don't forget to visit the other shows in the Dice Tower Network at dicetowernetwork.com. Until next time, from all the gang at the Dice Tower, have fun gaming.
All right, so it's that time again for Two Truths and a Lie. So I'll start. I was electrocuted when I was 5. I'm a professional makeup artist. And I've won several chess tournaments.
Ooh, I know which one. My Two Truths and a Lie. I went to an all-girls Catholic high school. I accidentally swallowed a Lego head when I was a child. And I have purchased expansions for games I do not own at least 5 times.
Why do I
right.
feel it could be that one? I actually have no idea.
All right, we'll find out in episode 524.